Hello, Phantom fans. My name is Sam Olmstead, and I am once again riding solo as Justin has learned the hard way that when the librarian asks you to stop twerking in the nonfiction section and you don't comply, there are consequences. So welcome back to the 4th annual Dump and Chase podcast draft recap show, part 2. So in this episode, we will be covering the Youngstown Phantoms Phase 2 draft. This show is brought to you by the fine physicians and staff at Advanced Podiatry. For information on treatments provided and services offered, office locations, and appointment information, including same-day appointments, check out advancedpodiatry.com. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, whether it is on Western Reserve Radio, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. So, as was the case for Part 1, I am once again joined by the co-general managers for the Phantoms, Ryan Kosecki and Jason Deskins. Gentlemen, thank you for not sprinting to the parking lot after Part 1.
Oh, it's been a blast so far. Thanks for having us.
There's going to be a reoccurring theme with this joke through these episodes. So the goal of the Phase 1 draft is to build for the future. You're banking on who these kids could become in a year or two. Now, Phase 2 is a different animal in that you're looking to fill needs for the upcoming season and maybe the season after. Is there really that? I mean, is there that much of a difference as far as scouting when you're looking at Phase 1 and Phase 2?
No, I mean, I think overall you're looking for players that fit your style and fit your system and that type of player that your staff wants. But you hit the nail on the head when you're trying to fill holes with Phase 2 picks. And so, we knew we had a few holes to fill and we had some good spots coming back. But that's the players that we targeted in Phase 2 this year.
Now, again, like I did in the first one, I bring up draft capital. Much like Phase 1, in the first 82 picks of this draft, the Phantoms had 11 of them. So again, it really goes to show, not only the player-for-player trades, but also the picks that went along with it, and what you guys were building towards, before the season and during the season leading up to the trade deadline.
Yeah, focal point was placed on obtaining as many picks as possible in the top 5 or 6 rounds of the draft. And I would also add, for Phase 2, we utilized some of those picks in terms of trying to backfill to enhance our protected list as well for the future. And, one of the things that Ryan and I have definitely stuck to is understanding the importance of the draft and of our future. And we don't want to leverage our future, solely for the purpose of winning right now all the time. We'd like to be perpetually good. In order to do that, you definitely need to have great lists. And I think, having the abundance of picks this year allowed us to fill some holes that were needs, obviously, for the immediate future, but also allowed us to prepare for, next season as well with some backfill picks in the draft.
Now, as I did in Part 1, I will explain that for everybody listening, the Phase 2 draft or the entry draft, that is for any junior eligible player that is not on another USHL protected list. Those are the players that can be selected. So coming into Phase 2, there was another trade that went down. You made a deal with Sioux Falls that gave you the 2nd overall pick in exchange for both 2nd-round picks, and I believe there was more to that.
Yeah, so the need that we felt we needed to fill the most was a center, and we thought this draft was a little bit light at the center position. And so the one player that we targeted at the center position, we did not think was going to be there when we picked at 9th. So we were able to acquire the 2nd overall pick for 2 second-round picks and a first-round pick in 2023.
Okay, so that getting into it, that 2nd overall pick, Matthew Perkins, forward from, we'll just go with Saskatoon, Canada. Spent last year with the Humboldt Broncos. So that was the main reasoning, what you just said, as far as, spending the draft capital, moving up to get this kid, looking at somebody to, hold that center position.
Yeah, I think for us, another reason why we wanted to acquire as much draft capital high and early in Phase 2 was for this, particular situation. We knew we needed a centerman. We knew we needed a top 6 centerman. Matthew is obviously a Minnesota Duluth commit. He's a kid who had 60 plus points, in a tough league to play in last year. He's got high skill. He's got a elite hockey IQ. He's got a great stick. He can really shoot a puck, but he makes everybody around him better. And for us, we knew we had an abundance of picks, and we knew what we wanted in terms of filling an immediate need, which was a top 6 centerman. So, it just made a lot of sense for us to fill that hole in our roster. And to be quite honest, we had so many additional picks in the top 6 rounds of this draft, that it wasn't, something that was so substantial that we were concerned about it. We still felt great about where we were headed with the rest of our picks and where we were at with our board. So.
Okay, so then still in the first round, your original pick in the first round, 9th overall, James Fisher, forward from Wilmington, Massachusetts, 6'2", 194, and you would assume there's still a little bit more room for growth there. So I'd say a big-bodied forward that you guys brought in here.
I mean, the pure goal scorer. I mean, James Fisher can absolutely just put the puck in the net. He's big. He skates well. He's a Boston area kid who's ranked in the top 100 on the NHL Central Scouting. He's best friends with Michael Fisher, right shot defenseman that will be playing in Youngstown this year. No relation, ironically. Just another added layer. Great kid, and we're super excited to be adding him to our program.
All right, and the next one, I'll be bracing myself for this one here. Skipping ahead to the third round, the 39th overall pick, Daniel Delchenko from Russia, spent last year in the Null with the Minnesota Magicians. And it seems like we've been seeing this a lot lately with a lot of Russian kids coming over, getting some experience in the Null before jumping up to the USHL.
Yeah, Daniil's a left shot. We actually knew about him the year before. He played in Canada for the Maryland head coach's brother. At Notre Dame. And so we knew a little bit about Daniil then, and we've been watching him the last 2 years. And he's one of those kids, just like some of our D in the first round. Great 200-foot defenseman, thinks it at a high level, contributes offensively, but just as good in his D zone, good size. And he's been over here for 4 or 5 years now. So he's pretty Americanized, speaks the language fluently, and wants to play NCAA college hockey. And he's going to be a heck of a Youngstown Phantoms come the fall.
All right, so we talk about size. Pick 43 in the third round, Philippe Nordberg from Stockholm, Sweden. I'm not even going to begin to attempt to pronounce who he played for last season. A lot of consonants in that name. 6'4", 207 defenseman. Yeah, that's a big boy. That's Swedish stock, I guess.
You're not kidding. Yeah, Philip's, obviously a big boy. He's almost got a little bit of undersized, puck-moving, skilled power play type defenseman in a real big body. So it's a huge bonus for us. Every pick we've made on the back end has been kids that can really think the game and make plays with their mind and make plays with their stick. And Philip is no different. He's got a super high ceiling offensively. Still polishing and rounding out his game. Another kid that's likely to be a mid-round NHL draft pick at worst case, and a kid that's we truly feel can come in and dominate in the United States Hockey League this coming season. So we're extremely excited to have Philip as part of our program.
All right, and this next one I don't have to sweat nearly as hard on. Moving into the fourth round, the 51st pick, Weston Knox, defenseman from Andover, Minnesota. Spent last season with the Andover Huskies. So at this point, you guys had gone 3 picks in a row with defensemen. So, but as much as you say it, you just look right there. So obviously, you guys aren't kind of jerking anybody around when you're talking about building from the net out. 3 straight picks on defensemen.
Yeah, and I mean, you go goalie, defense, and centers is how we want to build our program, and so that's where we thought we needed to add the most, and so that's where we went in our first, actually 4 picks when you add in the Perkins pick. So Wesson Knox is another kid who played at Andover, won a Minnesota State title with our Phase 1 pick, Stringfellow. He's a 2-way shutdown defenseman that's mean, heavy to play against, and likes to contribute offensively. So we thought he was a great get in the 4th round.
All right, so with that, we're going to take our first break. We'll have more Phase 2 analysis with Ryan and Jason when we come back right here on Western Reserve Radio.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
I have the sound up, and I appreciate the guys that do the work now. But it is with great appreciation I see what the guys do, not only the announcers, but also the players. So we've had wonderful playoffs. I mean, single, double, triple overtime games. It's been fantastic.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
And we're back with part 2 of the Dump and Chase podcast draft recap special brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. I'm here with Phantoms GMs Ryan Kosecki and Jason Deskins. So continuing along here, round 4, pick 55, Hunter Bischoff, 6 foot, 181 forward, spent last season with the Anchorage Wolverines. So which one of you went up to Alaska to scout this kid?
No Alaska trip this year to scout Hunter. Hunter originally is Grand Rapids, Minnesota kid, and actually was very familiar with him prior to even coming to Youngstown. He was, a kid that we had targeted when I was in Omaha, and our assistant GM and head scout Timmy Parkos out in Minneapolis knows Hunter extremely well. Hunter's 200 foot, does everything right type of a kid, just a worker. Hard to play against, has a lot of skill, very good IQ, and again, just another one of those kids. I think we've said the term here a couple of times, but he's just a hockey player, and he's the type of kid that his game is going to be transferable at every level he ever plays at, because he does so many things really, really well. Has a little bit of Zach Hyman in him, that type of a player where he's just hard to play against and has good offensive tools, and is going to be an elite teammate. Skates extremely well, big body. Really, really talented kid, and just a great player and a great human being. So we're excited about Hunter.
All right, now the next pick is an interesting one. All of the picks in the draft, this was the only goalie that was taken in the 4th round, 60th overall, Colin Wynn from Westford, Massachusetts, spent last year with the Boston Junior Bruins. Now, of course, we'll have Jacob Fowler coming back next year after, I guess, what you could call his rookie campaign this past season and what he was able to do. So where is somebody like Colin Wynn going to fit into that room?
Yeah, I mean, we knew we were losing Chavette, and we were happy where we were at with Jacob coming back, and so we knew we needed a goalie to push Jacob, either as that 1B or the backup role, and we felt Colin filled that role, that need for us. He had a great year in the NCDC last year, and before that he played for current head coach Ryan Ward when he was at Selects Academy, my alma mater, which is also Jacob Fowler, where Jacob Fowler played as well. So there's that connection, and we felt he filled all those needs that we needed for a second goaltender.
Okay, so going on to the 5th round, pick number 72, Sam Ranallo, a forward from Rogers, Minnesota. Played for Rogers High School, and I will point out this was a name I just threw out a second ago, and I saw a fist pump. So Jason seems pretty excited about Sam.
Yeah, I think when you look at Sam Ranallo and you watch his game tape, it's hard to not get excited. He's dynamic. He's electric. His hockey IQ is off the charts. His ability to make players around him better is off the charts. He's got an elite stick, an elite mind. He skates extremely well. He's also another kid that's a late birthday as well, so there's a little bit of a runway there with him for him to continue to grow and get better, and just again widen out that time frame that he has the opportunity to be a Phantom. But Sam's a kid as well that I knew from my time in Omaha. Have had a lot of eyes on him over the last 18 months, and Timmy Parkos in Minneapolis is also a guy who's watched him quite a bit and raves about him. And again, if anybody has an opportunity to watch Rogers High School in Minnesota on YouTube or any other platform, I would highly suggest you watch number 7 and pick up some popcorn and enjoy yourself, because he's a playmaker in every regard, and we think he can be a future number 1 centerman in this league that puts up big time points for us and can be a driver of our offense.
All right, and next up in the 6th round, the 78th pick, and we're going back to this kind of first-hand institutional knowledge. Don't worry, Ryan, your turn's going to be coming up here in a little bit. But from Little Caesar 16U forward Aiden Merrick.
Yeah, before Jason talks, I'll just say Aiden Merrick's the guy that I want on my team because he ended my team season this year, so I've seen enough of Aiden Merrick this year.
Yeah, there's if you didn't notice there, I think there's a little bit of anger there, but also a lot of admiration for Aiden Merrick, and that goes for both of us. Aiden's a great player, and he's a hockey player. He's big, he's heavy, he's hard to play against. He skates well. His mind is off the charts. Makes his teammates better, and he does all the little things well. He's not a kid that's going to show pucks. He's gonna make it hard on you to defend. He's going to protect pucks and surround them with his hips. He's going to take pucks to the back post off the rush. He's not afraid to get to dirty areas of the ice. He's not afraid to run somebody over. And he's also one of those kids that can make plays because he's just got an elite hockey IQ. So we're really excited about Aiden. We think he's got a bright future, not only as a Phantom, but, in his hockey career, he's got a chance to play for a long, long time.
But there's no animosity there at all.
No, none.
None. Okay.
He only killed us 4 times this year and ended our season.
All right. So with that, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the Phantoms Phase 2 picks. And we're still in the low rounds here, folks. Stick around right here on Western Reserve Radio.
Advanced Podiatry has been making happy feet in the Mahoning Valley for 35 years. Our offices are located in Cortland, Champion, Austintown, Columbiana, and Howland. Our Howland office has relocated to 8601 East Market Street in Howland Corners. Advanced Podiatry offers sports medicine and treatment plans for all ages. You can also request an appointment online by visiting our website at advancedpodiatry.com. Advanced Podiatry, where surgery is always a last resort.
Welcome back to the Dump and Chase Podcast Draft Recap Show, brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. We are trucking along here with Phantoms GMs Ryan and Jason. Now, have you guys noticed that I flipped your names around from the first episode?
No.
No, definitely.
That's
Not.
above my
Trying to keep it fair. So,
Yeah, I'm worried about 30 draft picks names right now, not my own. So.
all right. So, okay, we'll get back into it here. 6th round pick number 82, Connor DeHaro. Fox Motor 16U. So, Ryan, this should be somebody you know something about.
Yeah, just a little bit. So I had the pleasure of coaching Connor this year. He was my 3rd leading scorer overall as a defenseman. The best analogy I could give him is he reminds us a lot of the next Trey Taylor, who did pretty well for the Youngstown Phantoms this year. Connor's another late birth year. He skates very well, super physical, tough. Elite passer, sees the ice very well, and is going to be a great USHL hockey player. And most importantly, he's one of the best kids I've ever coached off the ice. So those are the type of people you want in your community in Youngstown, and he's going to represent our program very, very well on the ice, but just as importantly off the ice as well.
All right, so it looks like, by the looks of it here, you guys got a little bit of a break here between the 6th and the 8th rounds here. So with the 109th overall pick, Brandon Piku, forward from St. Clair, Michigan. This is somebody who has been in the Black Bears system for a while. What can you tell us about Brandon?
So I actually also coached Brandon at 16U as well, and then I was the one who brought him to Maryland. He's a Lake State commit, a little bit of an undersized forward. He's actually only played, counting juniors, 3 years of AAA, or Junior A, if you will. So he's a kid that's still developing, still getting better. He thinks the game very, very well. Even though he's small, he goes to the dirty areas, scores a lot of his goals in front of the net. Needs to get a little bit better defensively, but he's a kid that's going to be a great player for us this coming year.
And then in the 9th round, the 132nd pick, another Fox Motor 16U kid, Blake Beechan, from Dubuque, Iowa. Yeah, it really looks like you've had your pick here of Fox Motors kids.
Yeah, 3 kids in a row that I coached. So Blake was my leading scorer this year. Blake played Dubuque High School the year before, which obviously isn't a super hotbed for USHL players. And so decided to make the jump to Michigan to play U16. Took a little bit to learn how to play the complete game, but he possesses high-end skill. Is an elite playmaker, is always looking for that extra pass. And then by the end of the year, he had developed his game so well. He was one of my best defensive forward. Loves the block shots, loves to play with an edge, and is going to be a really, really good USHL and Division I hockey player.
Now, speaking of players that, as far as history is concerned, has not been a hotbed for USHL players, pick 147 in the 10th round, Cal Houston, actually local kid, born in Youngstown, Ohio. If my research, and by that I mean Elite Prospects, is telling me the truth, he's only the second Youngstown-born kid ever to be drafted into the USHL. This is a Penn's Elite kid, we've already had a good bit of success in the last year with kids from Penn's Elite. So what can you tell us about Cal?
Yeah, I think, it goes back to a question you asked earlier, like, kids coming from elite level programs or been in the phase 1 episode, but, the Penn's Elite has done an amazing job developing players and providing an opportunity for them to compete at the highest level possible in youth hockey. And Cal's a kid that I coached against 2 years ago with the 05 age group when he was with the Penn's Elite, and he was, undersized at the time and a little bit slight, and but still had a great hockey mind and ability to make plays, and he's ultra competitive. And we watched him grow this year as a player quite a bit. Had a chance to watch Cal probably about 10 to 15 times this year throughout the course of the season live, and did a ton of video work on him as well. And he fits into the mold of high hockey IQ, puck moving defenseman that's willing to compete and has great mobility. And we think Cal is going to turn into a wonderful USHL defenseman someday. And kind of, again, going with our theme of building from the back end out, he's just another piece of the puzzle for our future.
All right, so we're coming down to the end. So after this next break, we'll look at the final selections of the Phantoms Phase 2 draft. You are listening to the Dump and Chase Podcast Draft Recap Show right here on Western Reserve Radio.
The Dump and Chase Podcast is the unofficial fan podcast of the Youngstown Phantoms, but it's not always about hockey.
Have you ever played golf?
No, you should see me on the driving range. It's scary.
I haven't played in a few years, but I think the last time I played, I shot like an 83.
On 9 or 18?
On 9.
Still not bad compared to me.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been 80, but the windmill kept getting in the way.
The Dump and Chase Podcast, every Wednesday at 5:06 on Western Reserve Radio.
And we're back. This is part 2 of the Draft Recap Show, brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. And still joining me in this marathon are Phantoms GMs Ryan Kosecki and Jason Deskins. So we're on to the later rounds here. But at the same time, Jason, you talked about when you were on the show before, where you don't have as high a likelihood as maybe these lower round kids making the roster. But at the same time, it's not something that can be counted out. Carter Rose was a 17th round pick in phase 2. For the Phantoms back in 2019, Yusako Ando was a 22nd round pick. He was completely passed up in phase 1 and was a very late round pick in phase 2, ended up playing 2 years with the Phantoms. And then even going beyond that, when you talk about undrafted players, of course, Jacob Fowler, you said Nick Williams was somebody who was just kind of pulled out of obscurity, playing high school. So as far as that's concerned, you can't discount the kids at the bottom of these, draft boards. So yeah, especially when you're getting down to this point, obviously, a lot of the talent's been taken, but at the same time, you guys are still drafting, in the top half of this draft. At this point, what is it you're looking for in players?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty expansive crop of players that we have the ability to draft, in regards to their eligibility. So you look at the fact that we're drafting for, 5 different birth years all across the globe, and you can find some kids that are sleepers or diamonds in the rough, or kids that, were just hidden. It's like I said, it's a massive amount of players that you're targeting every single season. So we're definitely looking still for players that we feel can come in and fill a need for us, throughout our lineup. The other thing we're looking for is players potentially that could be, backfills for us for our protected list. So guys that maybe we look at and say, hey, they got a chance to make our team this year, but if for some reason they don't, we could always protect them and then, have them play somewhere else this coming season, but develop into a USHL or Youngstown Phantom player the following year. So there's different ways you can go based on what your needs are and maybe how the draft went, in the first chunk of the rounds there for your team. But I think overall it's definitely, an area of the draft where I think there's still a ton of value, and we truly believe that you can find great hockey players, deeper in the draft.
And then at the same time, you also have the situations like last summer, I believe it was Mike Brown. He was in main camp. As far as anybody knew, he was, going to be on the team last season. And then right before the season started, he took off to college. So, at the same, even these kids coming into main camp and thinking, well, maybe these spots are all full, especially with the returners. That's not always the case.
Yeah, I mean, you never know who's going to make the team, and like you said, with Jacob Fowler was just a main camp invite, and listen, the level of hockey is so good in 2022. You're still drafting elite players. I know I've used that word a million times, but you're drafting high-end hockey players late, and there's a lot of high-end hockey players that don't get drafted. So you got to keep looking for that diamond in the rough, and someone that might fill a spot if Mike Brown goes into college.
All right, so the last two picks we're going to look at here, taken in the 12th round, the 177th overall, Sean Kilcullen, defenseman, spent at least last year with the Maryland Black Bears. What can you say about Sean?
Yeah, he spent the last 2 years that I know of for sure with the Black Bears, with our organization there. Great kid, super hard worker, more of a defensive defenseman, shut down, tough to play against, will match up against the other team's top line, kill penalties, and just, make it really tough on the opponents to play against. And great kid that's going to, work hard and come in and fight for a spot to make our team.
All right, and the 14th round pick 207, that is Hunter Price, forward from Calgary, Alberta. Last season was with the Drayton Valley Thunder. Another forward, 6'1", 194, Canadian kid. What can you tell us about Hunter?
Hunter's a big boy, skates well, puts the puck in the back of the net, plays hard, heavy. Going to be a kid that is up and down the rink and in your face, and has got great junior experience in putting up, a lot of points in a tough league to play in. So, had some feedback from different people on Hunter as a player, and we feel that we got a steal there deep in the draft with a kid that has some experience, obviously, like I mentioned, but also has the ability, to put the puck in the net, but be also a 200-foot hockey player that can help our program. So we're really excited to get Hunter here for camp and excited to see him compete for a spot.
Yeah, he's the epitome of what you were just talking about, Sam, and someone that we think is an absolute steal and someone that can definitely, even though we took him in the 14th round, can push for a spot in the fall.
Now, more often than not, in the later rounds of these drafts, you'll see these players. I don't know if you put the foreign-born tag on Canadians. It's just north of the border. But some of these kids not born in the United States, and you often will hear that phrase in the later rounds that this kid was a steal. So what does that say for, as far as the Youngstown Phantoms and, the scouting department of, finding these kids and scouting these kids, bringing them to your attention if they weren't already, and then these kids being available in these later rounds to pick up?
Yeah, I think we have, the best scouting staff in all the USHL, from Jeff Cox in Boston to Rob Broderick in New Jersey, Sean Wallace in Buffalo, Nick Perillo in Cleveland, Timmy Parkos in Minnesota, the Syracuse guy,
Bob
Chattel in Syracuse. And a few other guys that help us out. We have a guy in Texas that helps us out, a guy in Arizona.
Mark Germain, phenomenal
in
Arizona.
Fodrell in Texas. We have an extensive scouting staff that works their butt off tirelessly throughout the year to help Jason and I be able to tackle this draft with the best ability.
Yeah, I believe I saw just recently in a post as far as the future camps this summer. One of them taking place in Scottsdale, Arizona. Is this kind of a new thing, kind of expanding these things more out west than have been in the past?
Yeah, and again, hats off to Mike Germain who joined our staff, back in November this past season, and Mike's an Arizona native, has been involved at the Division I level of hockey and. Has played hockey at a high level, and he's very well connected in that market. And for us, we're trying to grow our brand. We want people to know what the Youngstown Phantoms logo looks like all over the U.S., all over Canada, and it's just another step in the process. In order for us to enhance that branding of the Phantoms logo and the Phantoms program. So we're excited about that expansion per se of our camp side of what we do.
All right, so that is the haul for the Phantoms in the 2022 USHL draft. Gentlemen, as much as it can be talked about and discussed and gone over, I mean, how excited are you guys for July and just kind of getting to see this massive humanity on the ice?
Yeah, I mean, like, I wish it was tomorrow, and I wish September 1 was the day after. Like, I'm so pumped. I think we have, done a great job, getting this team ready to make a run at a Clark Cup next year. But like Jason said, more importantly, like, we want to be good every year. We want to produce the best hockey players we can, but we also want to produce great people. And that's our goal, is to make, Youngstown the best organization in the USHL. So everyone wants to come here. And when they're our age, they look back and say it was the best, 1 to 2 to 3 years of their life. And so we're building that to make us the best program there is.
All right, and with that, we're going to take our final break. When we come back, we'll put a bow on the 4th annual Dump and Chase Podcast Draft Recap Special, so stick around right here on Western Reserve Radio. And that will do it for this episode. A big thank you to Ryan and Jason. Now, I brought this idea to you guys. I mean, you jumped right on board with it. And most of all, thank you for giving the fans such a great look at, who potentially will be filling out the 2022-2023 roster.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. One quick thing I think that's important for everybody to hear. We are ecstatic for our fan base, and we are ecstatic for our players, our future Youngstown Phantoms, because we got a great thing going here, and we're excited to see this group continue to get better, and hopefully we can fill the Covelli Center with butts with a great product out there every single day, and we're definitely trending in that direction. So.
All right, so as always, the Dump and Chase podcast is sponsored by Advanced Podiatry. For information on services provided and treatments offered, office locations, and appointment information, check out advancedpodiatry.com. You can hear the Dump and Chase podcast Wednesdays on Western Reserve Radio at 5:06, either on westernreserveradio.com, the TuneIn or Live 365 apps, the Western Reserve Radio Facebook and Twitter pages, and the Youngstown Phantoms Facebook page. All of the links for Western Reserve Radio, YouTube, or whatever podcast service you prefer can be found on our Linktree page, as well as the links to our social media accounts, and that link will be in the description of however you chose to listen to this episode. So my voice is starting to go out. So for the sorely missed Justin Irwin and our special guests, Phantoms General Managers Ryan Kosecki and Jason Deskins, I'm Sam Olmstead. Thank you for tuning in to the Dump and Chase podcast right here on Western Reserve Radio. Bye now.